They all laughed loudly when I said I was starting my own business. "You're delusional, be realistic!" my sister yelled. 6 months later at the reunion, they froze when They didn't just laugh, they howled. It started with a snicker from my cousin James, followed by my uncle slapping his thigh like I'd just told the best joke of the year. My father chuckled into his glass of wine. But it was my sister, Dana, who delivered the real blow. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. "You're delusional, be realistic!" she snapped, her words sharp and loud enough to hush the room. "You've never run anything in your life, and now you think you're going to be some big-shot entrepreneur?" Everyone went quiet after that, but not for the right reasons. They weren't reflecting. They were waiting to see how I'd react, maybe get defensive, maybe crumble a little. I didn't give them that satisfaction. I just smiled. Tight-lipped. Steady. Because here's the thing about humiliation, when it hits, it's like stepping outside in the middle of winter without a coat. You feel it in your chest first, then it settles in your spine. Cold. Solid. But it doesn't break you unless you let it. I had told them, during that Thanksgiving dinner, that I was leaving my job to start my own business. Something I'd been planning for years, quietly, piece by piece. A small software solution for property managers. Nothing flashy. Just something that solved the problem I understood. But to them, it was laughable. A pipe dream. And I was the family's biggest joke of the night. I looked around the table, at my mother stirring her wine with her pinky ring, at my father who hadn't asked me a serious question in over a decade, at my sister still basking in the echo of her own insult, and I saw it clearly for the first time. I was completely alone in that room. But the funny thing about hitting a wall like that? Sometimes it's not a wall. Sometimes it's a launch pad. 3 weeks after that Thanksgiving dinner, I got a voicemail that I nearly deleted out of habit. "Hey Josh. It's Melissa from Pratt & Mason. Listen, one of our clients asked if we had a recommendation for a tenant management platform, something flexible, easy to use. I remembered you talking about your side project? Anyway, if it's still a thing, maybe call me back?" That message came in at 10:47 p.m. I was lying on my futon, scrolling job listings, not because I wanted one, but because doubt creeps in when the world turns its back on you. I sat up. I hadn't told a soul at my old company about the software I was building, except Melissa. One lunch break, 6 months before I quit. I'd walked her through some mock-ups on a napkin. She listened. Asked real questions. Then we went back to work and never brought it up again. I called her the next morning. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound calm. "It's still a thing." Truth was, it wasn't. Not really. I had a rough beta, built in long, caffeine-fueled nights. Some features worked. Some didn't. It definitely wasn't client-ready. But I didn't say that. I thanked her. Took down the client's info. And after we hung up, I sat there in silence for a full minute. Then I opened my laptop. That was the moment it stopped being an idea. In the following days, something shifted. I started waking up before my alarm. Ate standing up. Barely answered texts. It wasn't hustle porn Instagram inspiration, it was necessity. I couldn't fail. I wasn't just building a business anymore. I was building my proof. Every sneer, every laugh, every snide, "Be realistic," echoed in my ears while I worked. I coded through the headaches. Fixed bugs at midnight. I cold emailed 20 property managers a day. Half of them ignored me. The other half? Most said no. But one said maybe. Then another said, "Let's hop on a call." And suddenly, I had a demo to schedule. The first pitch didn't happen in a sleek conference room or over some overpriced espresso. It happened in my apartment, on a Tuesday afternoon, while my neighbor's kid practiced drums through the wall, and my living room still smelled faintly of burned rice. I cleaned up best I could, wiped down the table, stacked my unopened mail like it was part of the decor, and prayed the Wi-Fi wouldn't drop during the call. The man on the other end was named Rick Delaney. Mid-50s, ran a chain of residential complexes across the state. No-nonsense voice. Said he didn't care about bells and whistles. Just wanted something that worked. Make my life easier, I'll pay for it, he said, half into his coffee. I showed him the beta, clunky, rough around the edges, but functional. Tenant profiles. Maintenance tracking. Automated reminders. I had maybe 5 working features. I walked him through each one slowly, watching for his reactions. At one point he leaned back and muttered, "Huh." I couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Then he asked, "You built this yourself?" "Yeah," I said. "Just me so far." There was a pause. A long one. I remember hearing the faint hum of his office AC through the call. Then he said, "It's not pretty. But it's good." I blinked. "Sorry? I've looked at half a dozen platforms," he said. "Yours is the only one that doesn't make me want to throw my laptop. You got a pricing sheet?" I didn't. I made one that night. That call changed something. It wasn't a big deal to the outside world. Just a maybe client, just a trial period. But to me, it was the moment the world cracked open a little. Within 2 weeks, Rick signed on for a 3-month pilot. Paid up front. That was the first time in my life I saw a direct deposit with a comma in it that didn't come from a refund. I didn't celebrate. I didn't go out. I just sat at my desk that night and whispered they were wrong. And deep down, I started to believe it. It wasn't long before the silence from my family turned into curiosity. Then from curiosity to something else, something more calculating. It started with a text from my dad. "Hey kiddo, saw your name on LinkedIn. Looks like you've been busy." That's how he phrased it. As if we were old buddies catching up after a high school reunion. No mention of the last time we spoke, when he looked me dead in the eye and said, "You'll be crawling back in 6 months, begging for a job." I didn't respond. A few days later, my mom sent a message in the family group chat, the same one that had been radio silent since Thanksgiving. "Mom, Dana said you're doing something with software now? So proud of you, honey." Dana. Of course it was Dana. The same sister who'd laughed loudest. "You're delusional," was now suddenly the messenger. I could almost see her, sitting across from my mother, phone in hand, scrolling through the site I had quietly launched just 2 weeks prior. Yeah. I'd gone live. 3 paying clients, 1 pending contract, and a waiting list of 7 more. I had taken Rick's feedback and overhauled the interface. Hired a freelance designer with the first paycheck. Smoothed out the bugs. It was working. Really working. I didn't reply to the group chat either. Then came the real kicker, Dana herself. "Dana. Hey stranger. Heard about your little business. That's actually pretty cool." Little business. I stared at that message for a long time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an admission. It was the beginning of the pivot. The shift from mocking to maybe we were joking to hey, we always knew you had it in you. And I knew what came next. A family reunion was approaching. 6 months almost to the day since they all laughed. Since Dana yelled. They would all be there. Same house. Same long table. Same smiles. Only this time? I wouldn't be walking in with a dream. I'd be walking in with receipts. The morning of the reunion, I took my time getting dressed. Not out of vanity, but because I knew every detail mattered. It wasn't about showing off. It was about showing up. Clean-cut charcoal blazer, crisp white shirt, dark jeans, and the pair of leather boots I'd been eyeing for 2 years but never let myself buy. Now they felt earned. I parked down the street from my parents' house. It felt symbolic. 6 months ago, I'd parked right there too, walked in with a dream and walked out with their laughter echoing behind me. This time, the energy was different. I stepped up to the house and rang the doorbell. I could hear muffled voices inside. Someone shushed someone. Then the door opened. My mom stood there, smile too wide to be real. "Josh! Look at you!" she said like we hadn't gone half a year without speaking. "Come in, everyone's inside." I stepped past her without answering. The living room was full. Aunts, uncles, cousins. My dad in the recliner. Dana at the far end of the couch, holding court, her voice the loudest in the room, until she saw me. She froze. It was like someone hit pause on a movie. Her laugh cut mid-sentence, her hand slowly lowering from where it was gesturing. I didn't smile. I didn't nod. Just walked in. I could feel it, every eye in the room scanning me. The posture, the clothes, the calm. No need to explain. I wasn't here to prove anything. You look different, Dana finally said, her voice quieter now. I am, I replied. My dad stood and cleared his throat. Your mother made pot roast. Thought it'd be nice to have the whole family back together. I nodded once, then looked directly at Dana. 6 months ago, you told me I was delusional. She looked away. I didn't mean. I cut her off, still calm. You did. And it's fine. But let's be honest about it. The room stayed quiet. Even the usual background chatter, the clinking of plates, the shuffle of feet, vanished. You laughed. All of you. Mocked me like I was some kid playing pretend. Like building something for myself was a punchline. My mother stepped forward. Josh, we were worried. That's all. You didn't tell us much and… No, I said, finally letting my voice drop a little colder. You didn't ask. Dana opened her mouth again. I raised a hand. I'm not here for a fight. I just want you to understand something. I don't need your validation. I never did. And now? I glanced around the room, made eye contact with every single person who had laughed that night. I'm past you. And then I turned. I turned toward the door, and the moment my back faced them, the air shifted. Josh, wait. My mother called after me, her voice laced with something that almost sounded like panic. Dana stood up. Can we just talk for a second? I mean, maybe I was a little harsh, but… I repeated, stopping in the hallway without turning around. My hand was already on the doorknob. She hesitated. I could feel it. The silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was thick with regret, too late, too shallow, too rehearsed. You could have told us, she said, and I could hear the grasp in her voice now, trying to reclaim some kind of control. You didn't have to, ambush everyone with this. I turned halfway toward her, just enough so she could see my profile, not enough to give her the comfort of full attention. I did tell you, I said. I told you at that table, 6 months ago. You laughed in my face. She opened her mouth, but there was nothing to say. Nothing that could rewrite what was already written. I'm not angry, I continued. I'm just done explaining myself. Done waiting for the people who should have believed in me to finally come around. I turned back toward the door. Then my dad's voice came, gruff, quiet, almost foreign. You really made it, huh? I paused again, 1 foot already over the threshold. I did, I said. Despite you. And that was it. I stepped outside into the evening air, the porch light buzzing faintly behind me. The door stayed open for a second, like it was waiting for me to turn around and change my mind. But I didn't. I walked to my car. Calm. Steady. As I pulled away, I could still see them in the doorway. Small silhouettes framed in light. Watching. Still. For once, they didn't have anything clever to say. The days after the reunion were oddly quiet. No calls. No texts. Not at first. But I knew how this worked. When you're building something from scratch, nobody wants to look at the scaffolding. It's loud, messy, unfinished. But the moment the paint dries and the lights go on, suddenly everyone wants a tour. The first message came from my cousin Eli. Hey man, heard you've got something cool going. Maybe we could catch up. I stared at it for a while. Eli had once led the charge that night, laughing so hard at my announcement he nearly choked on his drink. I hadn't forgotten. Then came the emails. An old high school friend asking if I was looking for investors. A former coworker who used to ignore my ideas now, curious about collaborating. And then Dana. Her message was short. Timid. I was thinking about what you said. I'm sorry. Genuinely. I didn't get it before. I do now. Would love to talk if you're open to it. I didn't reply. It wasn't out of pettiness. I just didn't have the space for anything that came with strings. Apologies that arrived after the dust settled didn't hold the same weight. You can't unburn the bridge and call it a shortcut. Meanwhile, the business kept growing. Rick introduced me to 3 other property owners. One of them ran a multi-state operation and signed a year-long contract. I hired 2 part-timers to help with client support and back-end tweaks. My app, once a half-broken prototype, was now a polished platform with testimonials and a waitlist. I moved out of my 1-bedroom and into a place with windows big enough to let the light in. Success didn't taste sweet, it tasted clean. Like water after a long thirst. And still, not a single person who laughed that night said I was wrong. Not really. What they did say, in various ways, was, "We always knew you had it in you." Funny how people rewrite history when they're standing in the shade of what you built. It was a rainy Wednesday when the past came knocking again, this time in the form of a voicemail. "Hey Josh, it's Dad. Listen, your sister's going through a rough time. Her job let her go, and things are tight right now. We were wondering if maybe you could talk to her. Maybe help her figure things out." I replayed the message twice. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I couldn't believe he'd actually said we were wondering after everything. "No, we're sorry. No, you were right. Just a favor wrapped in vague concern." As if I was still part of that team. As if the laugh track from 6 months ago had been a bad dream. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I let the rain fall outside while I sat at my desk, reviewing a pitch deck from a potential investor. Across the room, a whiteboard showed our projected growth curve. The numbers were real now. Tangible. My name was finally something other than a punchline in a family dinner conversation. A few hours later, I got a second message. This one from Dana. "Josh. I know I've been a terrible sister. I won't sugarcoat it. I messed up. Bad. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. I didn't want you to get hurt chasing something I didn't think could happen. But I was wrong. I see that now." She paused. "I'm not asking for a job or money. I'm asking for 5 minutes. Just to talk." That one hit different. Because it wasn't the words, it was the tone. The Dana I knew didn't ask for things. She expected them. But this was different. Still, I waited a day. I wasn't interested in gloating. I wasn't looking for revenge. But I wasn't about to open the door just because someone finally knocked. Especially after they had slammed it in my face before I even got a chance to step inside. When I finally called her, her voice trembled when she picked up. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. "You okay?" There was a long pause. "No. But I think I deserve that." "No," I said. "I meant it. You okay?" And that's when she broke. Tears. Full on, no defense sobbing. She told me everything. The job loss. The bills piling up. The fear she never used to admit she had. How she thought success made you untouchable, and now, sitting in the wreckage of her own life, she finally understood what it meant to build something alone. She didn't ask for anything else. She just wanted to say it. To hear it. To own it. And in that moment, I saw her not as the sister who had laughed at me, but as the person I once believed in, buried beneath years of ego and expectation. We talked for 2 hours. And when the call ended, something strange happened. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt lighter. 2 weeks after that call with Dana, another invitation showed up, this time from my mom. "We're thinking of having a smaller dinner. Just the immediate family. It'd mean a lot if you came." The message was polite. Cautious. Like someone inching across thin ice. They knew I didn't owe them anything, not my time, not my presence, not even a reply. But I said yes. Not out of obligation. Not out of nostalgia. I went because this time, I was walking in with nothing to prove. The house looked the same, but something about the air inside had shifted. Maybe it was them. Or maybe it was me. My father opened the door, and for the first time in a long while, he looked older. Not just in age, but in spirit. He stepped aside without saying a word. Dana was already there, helping my mom set the table. She looked up, unsure if she should smile or apologize again. I gave her a nod. That was enough, for now. We ate in near silence. Not awkward. Just uncertain. Then, halfway through dinner, my dad set down his fork and cleared his throat. "I've been thinking a lot about that night," he said. I didn't respond. Neither did anyone else. The sound of the clock ticking felt loud. "I was wrong," he said finally, eyes on his plate. "About you. About all of it. I thought I was protecting you from failure. I see now. I was just projecting my own fear onto your future." I exhaled through my nose, quiet but deep. I hadn't come for this, but hearing it, it did something. "I appreciate that," I said. "But you weren't just wrong about me. You were cruel." He nodded. "I know." Dana spoke next. "I've replayed that moment in my head more times than I can count. I keep wondering why I said it like that. You're delusional. Like your dream was some kind of disease." My mother looked at her, then at me. "I think we all forgot that sometimes the ones who take the biggest risks are the ones who get the last word." That was the moment. The moment everything settled. I didn't need an apology scripted like a movie. I didn't need a toast or a plaque or a standing ovation. I just needed to know they saw it. Really saw it. Not the success. Me. After dinner, Dana walked me to the door. She stood there for a second, holding her coat in her arms like it was a shield. "You're not the same," she said quietly. "I used to think you were chasing something impossible. But now I see you weren't chasing anything." I raised an eyebrow. "You were becoming." I smiled, small but real. "So were you." I stepped out into the night, the door closing gently behind me. No fanfare. No applause. Just the quiet click of wood on wood. But it felt different this time. 6 months ago, I left this same house carrying their judgment like a weight strapped to my chest. Tonight, I walked away lighter. Taller. Not because they changed, but because I had.